name's Rhonda and welcome to a brand new fall video. I hope I didn't scare you guys too bad, but I have a feeling I really didn't. I have a feeling I'm probably going to be pretty embarrassed when I try to edit this video. But today I am doing my spooky book recommendation and TBR video. So first I have my spider ring. Well, I probably shouldn't do that, but I have my spider ring on, and then I have my spider earrings in celebration of the upcoming spooky season. I love Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays. It's just fun. I love everything about it. But more than anything, I love a good ghost story, and I started reading books about haunted houses or books about ghosts maybe a few years ago, and I thought it would be fun to kind of go through all the books that I've read and kind of pick out some that I feel like are some of the better ghost stories or haunted house type books. And so that's what I'm going to share with you today. I have 13 books, and that was not planned. I just grabbed books and counted them. I was like, oh, wow, 13 books, awesome. And then right after I go through my spooky book recommendations, I do have about 6 or 7 books that are books about haunted houses or ghost stories that were on my physical TBR that I kind of want to mood read through this October. So we're going to go through those after I go through my book recommendations. So before I get into these books, I do want to preface this by saying when I physically read a book or an ebook, a digital copy, I do not ever get scared reading books physically at all. I don't know why, I just don't. However, if I listen to an audiobook, I will get scared every time. I'm a big baby when it comes to audiobooks. And the first few books I want to share is by an author by the name of Darcy Coats. I've talked about her on this channel before, and I think she is the queen of ghost stories. And the first 2 books I read by her were The Haunting of Ashburn House and Craven Manor. I gave both of those 4 stars. I really enjoyed them. She does really good atmospheric ghost stories. They're a little bit slower paced. So first let's talk about The Haunting of Ashburn House. This one is about a woman by the name of Adrienne, and she's kind of down on her luck, and she inherits this really old crumbling house. And when she moves in, she learns that there's a mystery with this house. Spooky things are happening, and her sole purpose is to figure out what is going on, what is the mystery with this house. So what I love most about this book, it had great atmosphere. It was a little bit slower pace, so it kind of set the tone of the creepy vibes. And also too, it has just a really intriguing backstory. It's going to give you those chills and spooky vibes. It's suspenseful, so because you're trying to figure out what's going on with this house and the history of this house, it is suspenseful as well. And it was just a really good story, and it was my first Darcy Coats book. So it definitely hooked me and made me want to read more from Darcy Coats. Next up is Craven Manor, again by Darcy Coats. And this is about a man by the name of Daniel, and he gets a note slipped under his door that offers him a job as a groundskeeper at this estate. And all he's given is a location and a set of rules that he needs to follow. So obviously when he gets there, there's supernatural things happening, and there's also a mystery to solve. Now, I will say I did give this one 4 stars, but I did feel like Daniel just really did some boneheaded things, and just some things that it's kind of like the girl that's running up the stairs when she should be running out the door, things like that. So it was a little bit frustrating at times, but overall I really enjoyed the book. It was spooky, it gave me chills, and I liked the ending. I thought it was a good ending with a nice resolution to the mystery of this house and the Merrick family. The next book I want to recommend is another book by Darcy Coats, and it is called The Gillespie House. I actually just read this earlier this month, but it's about a woman who gets a job house sitting this house for a month for a couple who is going away for like a couples retreat. And soon after she gets there, she realizes this house is very haunted, and there's locked rooms that she's trying to get into, and she's supposed to be taking care of this house, but this house is tormenting her. And first off, this is a kind of like a novella. It's under 200 pages. So if you're looking for a ghost story that's a lot shorter, then I would recommend this one. I love that it was a shorter book. It was fast paced. It kept my attention. I kept picking it up, and I felt like it was a true ghost story. The last Darcy Coats book that I want to recommend is a book of short stories called Ghost Camera. Okay, so in this book, there are 2 longer short stories. There's 2 stories that are 100 pages, and I only read those 2 stories. I don't typically like really short stories. The rest of these are like 1 to 3 pages, and that's just not my thing. If it is your thing, then this absolutely is a book for you. But I'm going to recommend this book only because of those 2 longer stories. And the book is called Ghost Camera. And then the 2 short stories I want to talk about is first, Ghost Camera. This is a book about a woman who discovers a very old Polaroid camera, and she finds film to put in it, and every time she takes a picture, she sees an entity behind her, and every time she takes a new picture, it gets closer and closer. Come on, you want to read that, right? So I thought it was well done. I enjoyed it. It was a good short story, and this is one of those short stories that I wish Darcy Coats kind of took it and just fleshed it out into a full-length novel. I was really invested into it. It was definitely spooky and creepy, and I really enjoyed it. The other longer story in this is called Book of Lost Tapes. This one is about a woman and I think she has a daughter, and they move into this house, and in one of the closets, she finds a shoebox with VHS tapes. And there's a note that says, "Don't watch, you'll regret it." That's all you need to know. You're welcome. Both of these stories were very creepy. It's a shorter story, so obviously it's going to be fast-paced. And the Book of Lost Tapes is another story that I wish she kind of fleshed out into a longer novel, because I would have absolutely ate that up as well. So if you're looking for just a book of short stories, Ghost Camera is going to be the one for you. Okay, the next book I want to talk about, and I've actually mentioned it on this channel before in previous fall rec videos, but I'm going to go ahead and include this in this video as well because it is a good haunted house story, and that is The September House by Carissa Orlando. In this book, you're following a woman who, her and her husband buy their dream home, and they've been in this house for a number of years, but soon after they moved in, originally they realized this house was haunted. Most of the ghosts are pretty tame and I guess you would say friendly, but every September these ghosts get a little cuckoo, a little crazy, and then some new entities arrive that are much more evil and malevolent. And every September, in order for Margaret, who is our female main character, in order for her to just keep her sanity, she has a list of rules that she needs to follow from September 1st until the end of September to just make it through that month. And during that month, some really spooky and crazy things are happening, like the walls are bleeding, there's dead crows in the front yard that she has to pick up every morning. It's weird, it's creepy. This is also going to be a little bit of a family drama. There is a mystery in this book that you're trying to figure out. There's also a little bit of a psychological element to this, and it's also a little bit of women's fiction. I love this book. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I want to say this is actually more like a 5-star read because I can't think of anything that I just really didn't enjoy about this book, including the ending. I felt like the ending to this book was absolutely perfect. Usually with horror novels or thrillers, the bulk of the book is really good, but once we get to the ending, it's kind of silly and goofy. But that's not the case with this one. It was really, really good. And if you're looking for a good spooky haunted house book that has some layers of some other things that are going on, then definitely pick up The September House this October. Next up, I want to recommend How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrick. If you're looking for a book that's kind of campy and that has a lot of dark humor, if you're one like me, you like dark comedy, then this is going to be the book for you. This is about a woman by the name of Louise, and her parents unfortunately have passed away, and their house has been left to her and her brother, and they need to clean it out and sell it. Her brother is, he's kind of the black sheep of the family. He's a mess. They've never really gotten along. But once she goes into this house, she finds her mom's room full of puppets. Because her mom was kind of like a puppeteer, she would build and make these puppets and then go do shows with them. However, these puppets move when she's not looking. And there's one puppet by the name of Pumpkin, and we'll just say he has a mind of his own, okay? So this is going to be a haunted house book, but it's also going to be a creepy story with puppets. So if that's your thing, this is going to be it. This is also going to be a book about grief because she is dealing with the death of her parents, which has just happened. She is dealing with her poor relationship with her brother. They are always fighting and bickering, and he's just not always a good brother to her. So there's a lot to unpack in this book. And I really enjoyed this one because I was spooked out, I was creeped out as much as I was laughing, if that makes sense. And Riley Sager actually did a blurb on this. I feel like he nailed the description of this book the best, and he said it is a madcap funhouse of a novel. It zigzags from hilarious to horrifying to heartbreaking and back again in the blink of an eye. I loved it. I would absolutely agree with everything he said. This is going to be a funny book. It is going to be a little bit endearing. There's a lot going on in this book, but I really, truly enjoyed it. It's also going to be a little gory. There's some scenes in there I was like, ugh. So if you like a little gore in your books, and if you like dark comedy and campy horror books, then Grady Hendrix specifically is for you, but I'm going to recommend How to Sell a Haunted House. Okay, the next book I want to recommend is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison, and I also read this book this month, and this is actually my very first book by this author, so I really don't have anything to compare it to. However, I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4 stars. So in this book, we're following Cleo, and her mom has tragically passed away of a heart attack inside of a home that her and her 2 sisters were raised in briefly when they were kids. And when they were kids, her mom, Alex, and her dad were going through a messy divorce, and her mom temporarily has custody of the kids, and the only home she can afford is this house. And soon after they move in, her mom gets a sense that this house is haunted, and there is this demonic presence that takes an interest in Cleo. And she has stuck to that story her entire life. And no one believes her. They think she's an alcoholic. They think she's on drugs. They think she's crazy. And the courts actually strip custody of Cleo and her sisters from her mom and gives it to her dad. So her relationship with her mother all these years has, along with her sisters, has always been strained. But again, her mom has stuck to the story that this house is very much haunted, and it's being haunted by a demonic presence. And she has stuck to that story so much that she actually wrote a book. Well, after Alex dies, which is the mother's name, she has left this home, the spooky home, to her daughters. And so Cleo's like, you know what? I kind of want to fix up this house. I want to flip it and try to make more money. And so that is what she does. On the weekends, she comes in from the city to just fix up and refurbish this house. Soon after she arrives on that first day, she finds a book in her old room that her mother wrote about this haunted house and the hauntings that she experienced. And her mother has actually annotated this book for Cleo. Soon after she starts fixing up this house, crazy things start happening. So I have nothing to compare this book to because this is the first book that I read by this author, but I really enjoyed it. I was definitely creeped out. This house is definitely spooky. I would say, I know some people are not enjoying this. I would say go into this one expecting a book about a dysfunctional family. It's going to be definitely a family drama with a haunted house setting, and I really enjoyed it. There is some dark comedy. I was definitely chuckling in this book quite a bit. Also, to go into this one expecting not to absolutely love our female main character, Cleo. She is the youngest sister. She's definitely selfish. She's bratty. But even though I didn't like her, I still kind of liked her and I was rooting for her. So that's what this one is about. It's spooky, it's creepy, it has a haunted house setting. I love the family drama. I love the ending of this book, and I would absolutely recommend you read it this spooky season. Oh, also too, I forgot to tell you, you're gonna get blurbs from her mother's book with the annotations. I don't know if you can see that, but that was really interesting. I like that. So you're gonna get a little bit of a book within a book. So those first books were definitely more horror oriented. These next ones are, I would consider, more thrillers. The first one I want to start with is Never Lie by Frida McFadden. I don't always recommend Frida McFadden books. I do enjoy them, but for the most part, her books are 3 stars. They're fine. They're popcorn thrillers. They're bingeable. They're fast-paced, but they're stories I feel like I've read before. With the exception of this book, I found this story a little more unique than what I'm used to when it comes to a Frida McFadden book. But the book I'm talking about is Never Lie. This book we're following Trisha, and her and her husband are newly married, and they're looking to buy a home. And one of the houses they go to visit is kind of remote, and it used to belong to a very renowned psychiatrist who vanished without a trace 4 years ago. Well, while they're looking at this house, a blizzard blows in and traps them in this home, and they cannot escape until this blizzard ends. So in order to keep herself occupied, and she goes to look for a book, and while she's doing that, she finds a secret room full of tapes belonging to the psychiatrist, and she starts listening to these tapes unbeknownst to her husband. And as she's listening to these tapes, she's finding out what happened to the psychiatrist and her disappearance. At the same time, creepy things are happening in the house that makes you believe that this house is also haunted. I remember while I was reading this, I was absolutely obsessed with this book. I could not put it down. It was definitely entertaining. It is a popcorn thriller, but there are, just like with all Frida McFadden books, there are a lot of twists and turns. Once you think you have it figured out, she pulls a rug out from underneath you. So I did not see the ending coming. There is a lot of atmosphere, a lot of tension, a lot of spooky vibes. And this is another one that I think is going to be perfect for you to read in October, actually even in going into the winter season. It's just a really good spooky thriller with a haunted house setting. Next up, I want to talk about two books from one of my favorite thriller authors. It's also kind of borderline horror. Sometimes you can find her books in the horror section, but I think they're more thrillers than anything else. But I'm talking about Simone St. James, and the first book I want to talk about is The Sundown Motel. This was my very first book by Simone St. James, and just like with Never Lie, I was obsessed with this book. I remember when I finished it, I was telling all of my friends to read it. It was just a really good, thrilling, spooky book. But in this book, we're following the POV of two women. First is Viv, and her POV is set in 1982, and she moves to New York City, and she gets a job at this roadside motel as a night clerk. And soon after she starts working there at night, she realizes that things are not right at this hotel, and it's very scary, and it's kind of haunting. And soon after, she mysteriously disappears from the motel. We're also following the POV of Carly, and that timeline is 2017, and Carly has always heard the story of her Aunt Viv. So she decides to take it upon herself to kind of find out what happened to her Aunt Viv. So she goes to visit this Sundown Motel, and I think she ends up staying there for several nights, and she soon starts to experience the things that her Aunt Viv also experienced. This book was so creepy and spooky. It's very chilling. I loved the mystery of her trying to solve what happened to her aunt. I loved the plot twist. I loved how this book ended. I gave this one 4 stars, and this is, like I said, this was my first book by Simone St. James, but I have read every book she's written since then and have really loved her stories. Another book that she has written that's a little bit different, it's more historical fiction in nature, is The Haunting of Maddie Clare. This is about Sarah, and it's set in the 1920s, and she works for this temp agency, and she is assigned to this job with a man who is kind of like a paranormal investigator, a ghost hunter, and he takes her along to go on this job in the English countryside because there is a ghost haunting a barn, and the ghost's name is Maddie Clare. And that is what you need to know about this one. I was surprised how much I enjoyed this one. This is one of her earlier novels, and I feel like her earlier novels are definitely more historical fiction with some horror and paranormal themes in the story. And this one also surprised me because there is a little bit of a romance. I was not expecting that, but this one, again, it's spooky, it's creepy, there's a haunted barn, and if you like historical fiction, then I would absolutely recommend this one. The next 2 books are from another author that is one of my tippy top favorites, and that is Riley Sager. You guys probably already know which 2 I'm going to recommend because I always recommend them. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about them, but the first one is Home Before Dark, and the second one is The Only One Left. This one is going to be another one of those book within a book. This is about Maggie, and her family, when she was a child, escaped the house that they lived in because they were being terrorized by ghosts. Well, her dad ends up writing a really famous book about their experiences in this house, just like in Play Nice. And her dad has passed away, and unbeknownst to her, he has kept this house all this time, and she has inherited that home. Well, she ends up going, just like in Play Nice, she ends up going to this home to do a makeover so that she can sell it. And while she's there, she starts experiencing some of the hauntings, and she's trying to also figure out if the stories that her dad has told her, especially in the book, if it's real. So again, this is going to be another book within a book. You're going to have chapters where you're following the POV of Maggie, but you're also going to have like complete chapters from her dad's book where you're following what happened in their house when Maggie was a young girl. So this was so good. This was a 5-star read for me too. Actually, I do like this one more than Play Nice because it definitely delved more into the hauntings, and I loved the plot twist. I loved how this book wrapped up. It was really, really good. And then the other one is The Only One Left, and this book is actually set in 1983, which I love that. And we're following Kit, who is hired to become the caregiver for this older woman. Her name is Lenora, and she kind of has a notorious past. When she was 17 years old, her entire family was murdered, and everyone has always thought Lenora was the one to do it. So it's kind of going to be your Lizzie Borden type story. Soon after Kit starts working at this home, Lenora decides that she wants to kind of tell her story, and because she can't speak, she starts typing her story to her on a typewriter, which is kind of spooky in itself. So that is what this one is about. This is definitely going to be your gothic thriller. This house is on a cliff overlooking the ocean, and It was definitely chilling. It was definitely creepy. There is a nursery rhyme in here that Riley Sager has written that people say about Lenora. That was so good. I loved it. It was creepy too. And just like with all Riley Sager books, it was twisty. There were so many twists and turns. And this is another one where I did enjoy the ending. Sometimes Riley Sager does not write the best endings with his books. I usually enjoy them until the end. But with this one and then Home Before Dark, both of those books ended very, very well. Enjoyed it. If you're looking for just a good gothic thriller, then this is going to be a book for you. All right, the last book I want to recommend before we get into my spooky season TBR is We Live Here Now by Sarah Pembroke. This is going to be another gothic thriller. In this book, you're following the POV of both Emily and Freddie. They are a married couple, and Emily has had a pretty terrible accident that almost killed her. And her and her husband buy this home in the English countryside in order for her to kind of heal both mentally and physically. She's just trying to get better. Well, her and her husband, they've been married for a while, and they don't have the best marriage right now. They have been keeping secrets from each other, and that comes to light in this house. Soon after Emily and Freddie move into this house, Emily feels like the house is haunted. Spooky things are happening, books are falling off the shelves, and messages are being written into mirrors, and she feels like this house is trying to tell her something. And so throughout this book, Emily is trying to figure out what's going on with this house, what's this mystery. At the same time, things aren't right with her husband. They're keeping secrets from each other. So this is going to be a book that is definitely a family drama. It's going to be a psychological thriller. It's a gothic thriller. But I think what I love most about this book, two things. One, I've talked about this book before. This has a lot of themes of Edgar Allan Poe, and I think if you are a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan, you're going to love this. And also too, the other thing I really loved about this is how it ended. It did end kind of weird, but I feel like for our characters, it ended perfectly. This was a fast read for me, and I was grinning the entire time I was reading it. It is a haunted house book, so spooky things are happening, and I just felt like it was very well written. I feel like the Edgar Allan Poe nuggets, I call them nuggets, but I feel like she sprinkled them throughout the book just perfectly, and this was such a well-written book. So if you like spooky stories, if you like family dramas, if you like gothic thrillers, then absolutely read this one and don't sleep on it. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. It really is so good, and I will forever recommend this during spooky season. Next up, let's talk about some books that I hope to read in October. Again, these are going to be haunted house ghost stories. And we're going to start with Darcy Coats because she has a pretty massive backlist of books. And I've only read, I think, 5 of her books, and I really want to read more of her backlist. For example, let me show you. For example, let me show you just the list of books. I mean, look how many books she's written. I mean, it's quite a bit. But I have 3 books that she's written on my physical TBR. These are books I picked up over the past year that I'd like to get to this month. Hopefully, we'll see. The first one is The Haunting of Blackwood House. This is about Mara, who she was raised by a spiritualist, someone who did seances and kind of did fake. She was kind of like a fake medium. So her childhood was kind of like a scam, and she really wants to try to escape that life. So her and her fiance move to this house where apparently the owner has died in, and they've been told ever since he's died, things just aren't right with the house. So that is what this one is about. It's going to be another just haunted house ghost story, and I can't wait to read it. Okay, then I want to read Gallows Hill. So in this book, we're following Margot Hull, and apparently the Hull family has owned this winery called Gallows Hill Winery for generations. Well, her and her parents move in to this winery to kind of take over the family business. However, the next day, her parents are found dead. And so obviously she moves out of this home and she lives her life somewhere else. But apparently she comes back to this winery, and I don't know why, but bad things are happening when she gets there. So that's this one. It's the haunted house at a winery, which sounds very interesting. And then the last Darcy Coats book that I would like to try to get to in October is a book of, I say short stories, but it's probably a novella and a couple of short stories, but that is The Fallcroft Ghosts. And this is a book of 3 stories. The first book is, I think it's more like a novella. I think it's like 190 something pages. And I think this is more of a YA spooky book. But the main story, Fallcroft Ghosts, is about Tara and Kyle. They are brother and sister, and apparently their mother is hospitalized, and their grandparents or elderly grandparents take over raising them until their mom can get better. It says their elderly grandparents seem friendly at first, and the rambling house is full of nooks and crannies to explore, but strange things keep happening. A bedroom remains locked at all times, doors slam, and curtains shift when no one is inside. And there are whispers of a sister who drowned in the lake long ago. So there's going to be a mystery to solve. It's going to be set in a haunted house. Again, it's YA, but this is another one I can't wait to get to. All right, the next book that I would like to try to get to in October is actually a book that I got from the library that I've heard about, I feel like, for like 5 or 6 years, and that is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. All I know about this one is it is about 4 authors who apparently go and spend the night, I think it's on Halloween night, at one of the world's most notorious haunted houses. And it just says, what begins as a simple publicity stunt will become a fight for survival. The entity they have awakened will follow them, torment them, threatening to make them a part of the bloody legacy of Kill Creek. Dun dun dun. This just sounds really good. And also a couple of my friends who read this gave it 4 stars. So I think I'm going to love this. Next up is a book that I think if I don't read it this October, I'm going to unhaul it, and that is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. This is a book that I got from Book of the Month last year, and I never got to it, but I really want to try and prioritize this one because it sounds creepy. It sounds like it's going to be good. Apparently this book is told entirely through the POV of a young girl, and she sees an entity, and apparently she calls this ghost or this entity Other Mommy. I'm sorry, kids in horror movies or kids in books sometimes can be very creepy, and if you have a book where the entire POV of the story is through this kid calling a ghost Other Mommy, that's going to creep me out. So like I said, hopefully I can get to this one. If I don't, I'm just going to unhaul it. I did try to get the audiobook last year, but when I listen to audiobooks, I listen to them at 1.75, almost 2 times the speed. And with the woman who was doing the voice of the kid, it sounded like a chipmunk to begin with, and whenever I sped it up, it was like me, and I couldn't listen to it. It was bugging me. Couldn't take the book seriously. But I do want to try and get this one read in October. All right, the very last book that I would like to read in October, and then we will be done with this video. But the book I want to talk about is a book that I got a digital art copy through NetGalley, and I cannot wait to read it. But it's called The Haunting of Payne's Hollow, and it comes out on October 14th. And it's written by Kelly Armstrong. I feel like it's written by Kelly Armstrong, but I feel that name sounds familiar. Why does that name? Hold on. I gotta research this. Oh, okay. So she wrote the book, A Rip Through Time. I tried to read that last month and I DNF'd it. It was a time travel mystery book and I couldn't get into it. It was kind of boring. Well, she also wrote A Stitch Through Time, which that entire series is a time travel series. And I've heard from you guys that it is a really good series and you guys would recommend it. Anyway, we're here to talk about The Haunting of Payne's Hollow. I'm still going to read it. Just because I didn't like one of her books doesn't mean I'm not going to like any others. So I still want to give her a chance. The blurb says this is a nail-biting supernatural horror about a haunted lakeside property and twisted family secrets. Apparently we're following the POV of Samantha, and her grandfather has passed away and left this lakeside cottage to her, but in order to keep it, she needs to stay there for a month. Apparently when Samantha was little, her dad committed suicide because he was being accused of hurting a child. I don't know what the nature is. I don't know if it's murder or what. Yeah, it says apparently her father took his own life after being accused of murdering a child at their lakeside cottage. And I think her grandfather kind of wants to prove to Samantha by making her stay at this lakeside cottage for a month that her dad did not harm this child. And apparently Samantha is plagued by nightmares and paranoia. She begins hearing sounds in the forest and seeing shapes crawling from the water as the rippling waves of the lake promises something unspeakably darker lurking just below the surface. So this is going to, again, haunted house, lakeside cottage, haunted house story, but it definitely sounds like there is going to be kind of a family drama, a family mystery to solve, and I'm willing to give it a try. All right, my friends, these are all the books that I would recommend in October for spooky season. Again, I've also included some of the books that I have on my TBR for October. Will I read all 6 of those books? Definitely not, but these are books that I'm just going to try and mood read when I'm in the mood for a good haunted house story. But let me know in the comments if you've read any really good spooky ghost stories that you would recommend to me and other viewers. I am always looking for a good ghost story, so let me know what those recommendations are. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!